Welcome back. President Biden's new skinny budget request includes $500 million for the Technology Modernization Fund. That money would be on top of the $1 billion the fund got in the last coronavirus stimulus bill. Jen Pahlka is former Deputy Chief Technology Officer of the United States. She's writing on Medium about how the government can avoid big mistakes in spending the money. Jen, welcome back. It's great to see you again. You write in this piece, for those who've been wishing for this for years, we're in a big be careful what you wish for moment. Why so, Jen?
Well, modernization is super important, and we saw the impact of things like the state unemployment insurance systems failing over the coronavirus pandemic, and it means a lot to people. So it's gonna be high on everyone's agenda. It's just really important that we think about doing this right. So now there's the money for it. Let's look back and see what's worked and what hasn't, and do this the right way because the money and the people are now there.
You're connecting the plan or the thoughts about a plan to spend this money to a book that you read recently called Kill It With Fire, Marianne Bellotti. What's the connection that you see there, Jen?
Marianne wrote a book about legacy modernization. She has done legacy modernization in a bunch of contexts, but most particularly recently in the United States Digital Service. So she knows what we're talking about here. And what she's saying is we can't go back and keep doing this in a waterfall way. And what I would add to that is we can't keep just adding on all of the features that were in there before. We need the leadership on the policy and the operations side from these agencies and departments to come to the table and say, the same way we refactor the code to make something simpler and run faster. That's why you're not using Windows 95 anymore, right? Well, hopefully you're not. We need to refactor that policy and that process that goes into this. And that's actually how we get a modernized system that really works for people, whether it's unemployment insurance or whatever other function it is.
Aren't agencies getting better at using an iterative approach? Are they doing it the wrong way? What's your sense of what the challenge is right now?
I think they are getting better. And I think we've got a lot of wonderful people in leadership right now. Claire Martirana as our new federal CIO is just wonderful news. We've got the amazing new leadership coming in, hopefully at the GSA with Robin Carnahan. And agencies are sort of getting the message. I think that the danger here is it's very hard to do. It's very hard to create empowered cross-disciplinary teams who can do this together in a non-siloed way. And so they really have to pay attention. And the other danger is that this has to happen fast. This money is coming at states in particular, and they've got to use it. And so the easiest thing to do is sort of throw it out the door in the same way that they threw it out last time. And I mentioned in the piece, in unemployment insurance, we had about half the states technically had modernized leading up to this crisis in the pandemic. Well, if it didn't help them, then that's not the right way to do it. And we need to take a breath and stop and not send it out the door in the way that we had in the past, and really think about how we build that cross-disciplinary team with other players at the table with a bigger agenda. And I mean bigger as in smaller in scope with a clear goal, but bigger in terms of who's at the table and what we're actually trying to achieve long term, which has to be not just moving to a new platform, but really building the capacity of that department or their agency to do this long term.
You get at one of the issues that people talk about here in Washington, especially about legacy technology in this piece. When you referenced your experience with the California unemployment system, you wrote, it drove home how little it would matter to, quote, just get them off the mainframes. Just getting rid, shedding legacy technology, something we talk about on this program a lot, we talk about in this city a lot. What's wrong with that idea?
Well, I saw it very clearly in California. You really have a problem with the system not scaling. And our team went in there and dug in really deep and figured out which parts of the system weren't scaling. It wasn't the mainframe. It was identity verification. It was really mundane things like they couldn't get through all of the mail that was coming in the door. That's what was keeping people from getting their unemployment insurance checks, which they so desperately needed. So that is what the teams need to focus on first thing, not moving them off the mainframe. Once you get those teams in there and they start to understand the often very complex, very fragile, interconnected systems that these things really are, they're not one monolith, they're a bunch of different things that have accrued over decades, then you're in a much better position to say, okay, we can start thinking long term about how to move this system off of a mainframe. But that's not what we should be doing today, especially when we still have people who aren't getting their unemployment checks, we've still got problems in that system. And let's think about that when we understand these systems better, which means getting in there and doing the immediate thing that needs to be done right now.
Yeah, the book, the author that you cite in this piece, Ms. Bellotti, you point out, frames that which one moves the needle further. That's the question that people should be asking, right, Jen?
We hear really often, oh, we're doing a legacy modernization process. We say, great, what's the goal? And they say, to modernize. It's not a goal. And I think Marianne Bellotti does a great job of explaining how to set a goal that's actually going to bring your team together and help them make decisions that they can move forward quickly. Because we need to move fast. We just need to move thoughtfully.
Jen, thanks very much for coming on. It's a great piece. Great to have you back on the show.
Thanks so much. Wonderful to see you again.